Hey guys, it's Fracken here again. This video is a kind of a mixture of motivation and debunk of sorts. I've been watching some gaming videos here on YouTube the last few days, and one of these was a video that was accusing a rather high-profile streamer and ex-pro player of cheating. In this particular video, they had assembled and narrated clips that were apparent proof of this. I watched a good portion of this video, and it changed my mind about what subject I should tackle next. If we really believe that the only way to play at the levels that we see in some of the top players is to cheat, it's pretty tough to believe that we could ever really achieve something like that. No motivation means no effort. No effort means no progress. And since trying to make progress is the whole reason that we're here, I decided to use that as the topic for this video. The big question that I want to discuss here is this. Can you actually tell when somebody is cheating? Accusations of cheating are pretty common in the modern gaming world. In some cases it is pretty blatantly obvious. In other cases it's not quite so obvious. In most cases though, it's pretty much ambiguous at best. I would say that the vast majority of accusations of cheating that I've seen come down to three main things: flick or snap shooting, outstanding tracking, and outstanding player prediction. To cheat, deceive, trick, victimize. The use of fraud or deliberate trickery to hoodwink or obtain an unfair advantage over someone. To cheat implies conducting matters fraudulently, especially for profit or benefit to oneself. We all have an intuitive idea of what cheating is. In the context of gaming, there's all kinds of cheating. Things like the use of little-known properties and glitches of the game itself, things like aimbots, trigger bots, and wall hacks. Some cheaters even use network and code manipulation and custom cheating hardware. There's no doubt that there's plenty of ways to cheat and plenty of sources to get these cheats. I remember when I first started playing Crucible, some people's aim felt just a tad too good. Out of curiosity, I decided to go out of my way to see what the cheating scene looked like. The very first result on Google at that time for the search terms Destiny 2 cheats was a piece of software called SharpEye. It was a paid cheat engine that included things like an aimbot and a trigger bot. While last I heard, the product itself is gone, at the time of actually writing this, their Twitter account is still up. The motto for their product on their Twitter account is Project SharpEye. Sometimes players need more than skills, they need SharpEye. It's impossible to say how many people were actually using it, but I still remember the day they updated the game to break those aimbots. You knew within the first few minutes that something was very, very different with the player base. There's no doubt people who were using those things were absolutely cheating. But aimbots, trigger bots, and wall hacks aren't the only kinds of cheats. There's also players using devices like the Cronus Max and the Zim. While originally designed to let people use a mouse on console, these also allow you to use a mouse and keyboard on a PC, but convince the computer that the mouse is a controller. I've never tried one of these, so I don't really know how well they work, but I have used a controller. The soft lock during aim is ridiculous in some games. If someone could dial it in so the mouse feels natural, it would probably be an insane help. All of these cheats so far would fall under the umbrella of artificial aiming, but there's other ways that people cheat as well. I've seen examples of people with fully automatic sniper rifles that have infinite ammo. Examples where people can flit about the map at will. And then there's the ever-popular lag switch. Why tolerate losing when you can just make a foot controller to disconnect the network for a second when people are shooting at you so that you won't take damage? In all of these cases, using and abusing this stuff is absolutely despicable behavior. I think most of us can agree on this point. So, how can you tell if someone is using these things?
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
The question of whether somebody is cheating needs to be answered honestly and truthfully. Personally, I think false accusations can often be just as bad as the accusations of cheating themselves, sometimes even more so. Cheating ruins the game for everyone else temporarily, but false accusations of cheating can ruin it for an individual forever. For this reason, we had better be damn sure if we escalate the matter to something like making public accusations. For casual players, pretty much any outstanding player that's having a good day will look like they're cheating, especially if there's considerable network lag involved. Things that are not unquestionable proof of cheating, though, are things like flick or snap shooting, really good motion tracking, or predicting other players. A good player who's having a really good day and really on top of it can stare down a sniper lane, and the instant something moves, flick the crosshairs to where the head should be and click the trigger in a fraction of a second. A good player can also snap to a target who's flying or running and track their head with ease, especially if there's no change in their direction or speed. Something that comes with lots of playtime and practice is map knowledge. This includes where people will be and when they'll tend to be there. What this really comes down to is that quite often what's called out as cheating is really just a good player having an outstanding day and demonstrating ridiculous amounts of skill and focus. Real skill can be very hard to tell from pure aim cheating. It can be hard enough to tell the difference that there have even been cases in the pro esports scene where people had played multiple games and had countless eyeballs on their game and not been caught right away. In some of these cases, it's been contested to this day if they were even cheating at all. If it's this hard to tell with so many professional top-tier players watching, it takes some serious hubris to think the rest of us can just casually determine this without any doubt. I'd like to tell you a story about my youth that's actually relevant to this particular subject. I started playing guitar at a very young age. When I was somewhere around the age of 12 or so, I started to take it very seriously. The trouble was, I lived in a small town, and despite not really being that good of a player, I was still the best player that I knew personally. The internet wasn't a thing yet either, so virtually everything I knew about playing had come from the handful of books and videos that I could find. Despite this lack of information, I was still dedicated. There were days where I would spend 8 hours or more doing nothing but playing exercises, scales, and song practice. I very much liked the shredding style that had become popular at the time. Steve Vai, widely regarded as one of the greatest guitarists to ever live, once described guitar shredders as someone who can play an instrument and has such a tremendous amount of technique that what they do just seems completely effortless and absurd. He's not kidding about that level of skill and technique required. I'd spent close to a decade playing, and nearly half of that time doing so very seriously. Despite this, I could not shred yet, not even close. So what did my brain tell me when I would see videos like this? My brain would tell me that it's obvious that they're cheating somehow because normal people simply can't do that. I was the best player that I knew at the time, and I wasn't even close to that level of skill. And if 100% dedication and year after year of spending hours every day practicing couldn't produce that, it was obviously fake. There's only one problem with that conclusion. I actually quit playing guitar around the time that I graduated high school. Between a girlfriend, a full-time job, and a social life, I just didn't have the time. The last few years or so that I'd been playing, I was good enough that I'd actually ended up teaching for a short time, but I still wouldn't have considered myself a shredder. Then, after my health went south in my late 20s to early 30s, I found myself with time on my hands and I started playing again. This time, with access to all of these great players that I'd idolized in my youth. Now, even despite the health issues, I was able to learn to play things that I had only dreamt of before, and the difference in ability was striking. In a matter of months, I was already way past my prior skill level, and I was already playing things that I had never thought I would play. So what changed? If I'm honest about it, most of the change has been mental. We all know that modern tech has amazing powers to do all kinds of crazy things. Faking ridiculous guitar playing is not out of the realm of possibility. But seeing these people teach this stuff was different. It's much harder to pretend that they're faking it when you see them playing it from start to finish, when you see them break it down, play it at different speeds, and especially when you meet these kind of players in person. This is when I realized something very important. If you take two people and turn them loose on learning a very difficult task, if one believes that the task is impossible, while the other one believes that there's virtually nothing a human can't do, you will have two very different outcomes. These experiences have led me to change my outlook on human potential in general. When we're surrounded by mediocrity most of the time, it's easy to convince ourselves that this is both normal as well as the only possible state of being. But there's another state of being for humans, one of absolutely focused, unrelenting push to succeed. The results from this can be so astonishing that they're impossible to believe by those who've never personally experienced it. And this absolutely happens in gaming. I want to show you an example of this. One of my very close friends that I game with is a 71-year-old female who's been retired for years. I've been gaming with her and her husband for about a decade now. For some reason, about 2 months ago, she decided to start working on her aim. I helped her to set up her mouse settings, calibrate the aim trainer so that it was the same as her game. We developed some aim trainer programs for her to work on, and away she went. Now prior to this, there was no way that she could flick shoot. She aimed the same way that most people do. It's the hunt and refine method. Get close, adjust a little bit closer, adjust it again, a little bit more, click the button, and repeat. We do this really quick, but this does take time. Flick shooting is different. You just swing the crosshairs onto the target and you click. No refinement, just snap and click. I asked her to shoot at me a little bit in a private Crucible match a few days ago just to see how it was coming along. The person who just shot the hell out of me is 71 years old. Despite age, despite vision problems, despite constant pain from arthritis, she has learned to snap shoot in less than 2 months and did so with nothing more than a few minutes a day of practice before our games as a warm-up. She is very proud of this accomplishment, and for damn good reason. So what exactly am I trying to get at here? What is it that I'm ultimately trying to prove? Simple. That human beings are capable of exceptionally high levels of skill with enough time, patience, practice, and motivation. This is why the cheating thing can be very difficult to prove. Most times when people say that they know someone is cheating, all they really know is what happened, not how or why it happened. We often complain with statements like, "He's clearly cheating, he never missed a shot." But there's a problem with that. People with high aim skill often have long runs of shooting without missing a single shot all the time. And it's the same with many of the other complaints, like pre-firing doorways when you're predicting someone will be there, or snapping to somebody's head and then tracking it like it's a magnet. I suggest watching my Gambit gameplay video, specifically the one originally entitled COBS 4, We Really Whipped the Llama's Ass. You'll see some of these things in that video. Lots of the shots are headshots, even halfway across the map. Many times I'll pre-fire doorways and corners. These are the sorts of things where people will often swear the other person is cheating. In the parts where I've done the shooting in slow motion, you can see all those tiny mistakes and glitches. It's pretty clear once you see it slowed down that I'm fighting with everything I have to keep the crosshairs on people's heads, and I'm often failing quite spectacularly, but it often doesn't look that way to the other person that I'm shooting at. To some people, it seems like an impossible level of skill, and if it's impossible, that can only mean one thing. The video about cheating that I mentioned at the start of this video is typical of high-level gameplay by really outstanding players. These people have amazing reflexes. They play enough that they know the maps inside and out, they know all the little nuances of the game, and they have mouse skills such that they can snap to a head and track it like the other gamer's head is a magnet and do it in their sleep. To casual players, this stuff looks fishy as hell. When you aren't in the habit of listening to footsteps, it truly can look like somebody has wall hacks to see things that you can't see. When somebody can snap their crosshairs to you in a fraction of a second and put every bullet into you, it really does seem impossible. When somebody shoots into an empty doorway half a second before the other guy is even there, it really can look like the person is cheating. Playing against these people as a filthy casual is a brutal experience. When you play against an aggressive, fast, relentless, and highly skilled player, it can feel like there is no possible way that you can win. This is why I decided to start doing these videos in the first place. To help people prove to themselves that they can win, and to help them give themselves the tools to achieve that. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what shape you're in, you can improve your game if it's something that you really want to do. The only limit is what you put into it. So why does this even matter? Why would I even bother taking the time to talk about cheaters in the first place? Well, this is really the key to this whole video. I decided to start this channel to share some of the things that I've learned while improving my own game. I want people to know that there is no age, no health issue, no reasonable problem that they cannot overcome. That's not to say that these issues don't have an effect on us, because they absolutely do. Rather, I want people to know that they can still succeed in spite of these issues. To do that, we need to be able to motivate ourselves, and that means that we need to be able to see the proverbial prize at the end of the road. If we believe that the only way to win is to cheat, we probably won't put in the time and the effort. It's the benefits that come with time and effort that I'm trying to make a convincing argument for. It's tough to believe that we'll ever achieve our goals at times. I've struggled with this too, but the results don't lie. Despite my age and ridiculously poor health and all of its consequences, I've still managed to learn to play and shoot at a level that I never, ever thought I could achieve. If you want to get better, and you can set aside the belief that all ridiculous skill is cheating and convince yourself to put in a bit of effort, the only limit to how good you can get is how much you're willing to invest. There's a video that I think would be helpful for people who are still struggling to see the benefit in what I'm trying to explain here. Even if you couldn't care less about gaming, it's a good life lesson in success anyway. In the sports world, there's a lot of personal trainers and motivational coaches, but the guy who trained Michael Jordan is one of the best. His name is Tim Grover. Patrick Bet-David of Valuetainment did an interview with him that I think everyone who's trying to succeed in something should see. The video is called 13 Rules of Being Relentless by Tim Grover, Uncensored, Michael Jordan's personal trainer. I highly recommend it. I hope that I've managed to put the subject of cheating into some kind of helpful perspective for you. I understand that some people really do mean it when they say things like, "You can't convince me," but for the rest of us, I hope you've learned something from this video. It's easy to feel demotivated when you're confronting superior skill and aggression, but pretty much anyone can learn to be that person with the superior skill. Remember, we all popped out the same way, wet, naked, and stupid. What happens after that is up to us. As always, GG's and good luck.